got those two tracks.
Hello YouTube, welcome to another video on the channel. If you are new, don't forget to like and subscribe to the video, but I'm gonna get into it. As you guys can clearly see already, this video is going to be a tier maker video, another one, but we're gonna do this on the NFL teams based on their last decade and the future decade from 2020 to 2029. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna rank all these teams in the S, A, B, C, or D tiers based on how I think they're gonna do next decade and how they did this decade. So I guess we're gonna start it off with the Titans. I'm gonna put in the B tier because they were just about average for most of the last decade, but they really showed up this year, so I think they'll have a good future. I just can't put them in the S tier just because their last decade was fairly mediocre. So next up is the Dolphins, and I'm putting the Dolphins in B as well, which is it's arguable because the Dolphins had a terrible 2010 to 2019, but I'm seeing a lot of growth and improvement. They're probably going to get a great quarterback like Tua or Herbert in the draft, which means that instantly they'll go up. Their defense has been pretty solid, and like their coach, he's really good. So the Browns, I have to put them at D, because if I don't put them at D, who am I supposed to put at D? Like, one of only two teams to go 0-16 ever. They've just been the most undisciplined team. It's like sad to watch because their organization has so much talent. Baker Mayfield, David Njoku, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, who they completely wasted away, OBJ, Jarvis Landry, Myles Garrett, like a lot of good players on that team that they just haven't used to their full potential. The Jags, so I'm gonna put the Jags at a B as well because they had those few years with the best defense in the NFL. Jalen Ramsey, AJ Boye, like that was a scary defense. No one wanted to go up against them. So the Lions I'm putting at a C because because Matt Stafford, he's really not been that elite. He was pretty good for the first 5 years, but these last 5 years, they just haven't been a good team. The Vikings, I'm putting at an A tier, because the Vikings seem to make the playoffs almost every year. Like, they've had AP for a bit this decade. Kirk Cousins has been showing up. Dalvin Cook, Stephon Diggs, well, up until now. Yeah. I think this is a team to watch for the future. The Bucks. Well, I mean, they just got Brady, so I have to put them at a B because I think their next few years is going to be insane because they probably do have the best wide receiver core in the NFL. I think, yeah. So the 49ers I'm putting at an S because they had early decade success and they've had success these past few years and they're just going to keep getting better. It's like a young, really, really talented defense. Like, one of the best defenses in the NFL. So the Atlanta Falcons, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, I think I'm gonna put them at I think they're an A tier. They made the playoffs pretty consistently and they haven't been bad at all. So Baltimore, they go at an A tier just because they were kind of mediocre for a bit between Joe Flacco and Lamar Jackson. The Bears have to be a C. I can't put anyone else at a D besides the Bengals, but the Bears, I put them at a C because Mitch Trubisky hasn't really done much, and I don't know if he will do much for the Bears. Like, they got Nick Foles, so they addressed the problem, so we'll see. The Bengals, I mean, they've just, like, they were good with AJ Green and Andy Dalton, but I just don't see any future for them, and they weren't above average. Even back when they had AJ Green and Andy Dalton, like everyone was healthy. Joe Mixon's a good player though. I think he's a player to watch out. The Cowboys, I'm putting it at a C because they've had the most talented roster quite a few years in a row, and they just never do anything with it. Every single year there's an excuse. Like, so the Texans, I'm putting them at a B because the way Bill O'Brien's going, that's not a franchise that I want to say is a good franchise. But They also do have Deshaun Watson. They still, I mean, they traded away DeAndre Hopkins, but they still have JJ Watt, and like, it's a franchise that could succeed in the future if they fix the problems that they have. So Andrew Luck, the former Colts QB, he retired, and that's the problem. Is he was probably one of the most talented QBs in the NFL when he retired. So it's hard to decide, but I think I'll put them at a B tier, which is really high for them, but yeah. Okay, so the Rams, they go at an A tier because they made the Super Bowl. That's the only reason that they're up there. They shouldn't be up there, and they probably wouldn't be without that Super Bowl. Who are the other quarterbacks in this decade? Sam Bradford. I think Jared Goff may be their QB of the future. I'm just not sure. And yeah, actually that changes my mind. I'm gonna put the Cowboys at B, just because I think they have a good future with Zeke and Dak possibly. So the Chargers are gonna get a good pick in the draft. My guess is they'll get the same thing, the other one between Tua and Herbert. So I'll put them at a C tier because Philip Rivers hasn't been doing much for them. Kansas City, that's an S tier team. They somehow managed to pick up Patrick Mahomes at 12. He's gonna go down as an elite quarterback, one of the greatest of all time. So the Saints, I'm putting at an S tier because they make the playoffs every year, and Drew Brees hasn't had a bad year yet, but they could easily shift down to here. The Giants, I mean, they won their Super Bowls last decade, and they've just been mediocre this decade, so I have to put them there. The Eagles were the one team that, unless you were from New England, when they won that Super Bowl, you were happy because, they were like, it was the perfect underdog story. It's always been an underdog story there with all the injuries they've had to Carson Wentz and to, apparently Nelson Aguilar's hands. I don't know. I think I'll put them at an A just because of how much respect you gotta have for Carson Wentz. Pittsburgh, yeah, I think they're an S tier because there's those few years when the AFC Championship was literally just Pittsburgh versus New England every single year, I think 4 years in a row, besides Denver, who's the next team up. So I think they go as an S tier team, but yeah, they haven't been, I don't think they have a very good future. That's what's making me bring them down. Up next is Denver, and Denver has a solid defense, one of the best futures probably in the NFL, so I'll put them at an A tier. I think they easily have the highest future outside of Arizona and, Buffalo in the NFL, but they won a Super Bowl as well, so I guess they could be an S tier team. Because they won a Super Bowl with Manning, they lost a Super Bowl against Seattle, and they really have the best future, so I'll put them at an S. Green Bay, I don't see them having a good future unless they draft a QB in this draft. I think Eason could help them and Jalen Hurts could help them. So I'll put them at a B tier because they don't really have a future, but this last decade was pretty good for them. Carolina, they had the 15-1 season, probably one of the most exciting seasons ever by a team. So I'll put them at A tier because they're really only going downhill from there. And they still, I mean, maybe Teddy Bridgewater, but I don't know if they know who their quarterback of the future is yet. So the Raiders just moved to Las Vegas. They got a nice new facility and everything, but they don't have the players. That's the thing. Josh Jacobs is looking like a really good NFL player, but outside of that, Derek Carr is decent. Their defense is decent. There's nothing elite about their team. So I'll put them at a B tier because they didn't have a terrible last decade and they're not gonna have a terrible future decade. So I don't think I have to justify the Redskins. They could actually, I'll put them up at C because I think Dwayne Haskins could become their QB of the future. I don't know if he will be, but he definitely could be. Arizona, as I said, highest future probably in the NFL. They've drafted well every single year. Kyler Murray, he's really probably one of the better quarterbacks next year outside of Patrick Mahomes. He might be in that next tier besides Mahomes and Wilson. Josh Allen, I really think he's a good quarterback, so I'm gonna put them at a B because their last decade was pretty bad. but their future decades looking super bright with Josh Allen throwing to Stephon Diggs and John Brown. And then their defense was so insane last year, like it was super underrated. The Jets, I'm putting it as C tier. I don't know why I skipped the Seahawks, but the Jets, I'm putting it as C tier because Sam Darnold might be their QB of the future. I'm not sure yet because he came back. He had that one big game where he threw for like 4 touchdowns and 388 yards, and then he went back to being Sam Darnold. So really, Sam Darnold could be he has the potential to be one of the best QBs in the NFL, but he hasn't shown it, which is why I'm putting them at SC. The Seahawks are an S tier team. I don't know. I think they have one of the best futures in the NFL. And their 2010 decade, they had the best defense probably ever, or one of the best defenses ever. Russell Wilson is growing into a quarterback who I think can win MVP multiple times in the next 10 years of his career. Yeah, they have a young defensive core. I think this is a really good team, like a team to watch out for, and probably the hardest division in football. So up next is the New England Patriots, and they have to be an S. Like, I don't think there's an argument here. How many Super Bowls? They won like 3 Super Bowls this decade. They've easily been the best team. Bill Belichick, Tom Brady. Now it's breaking apart. But the way the Patriots draft every single year, I think they'll be back in it before people think they will. Okay, you guys, that's all for this video. Thank you guys a lot for watching the video. If you finished till the end, comment a video suggestion that you have for me, followed by your favorite animal, and I'll be sure to like it and at least look at it. Thank you guys for watching the video.